With. And welcome to the public works session. I now call the meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes. Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker. Mr. Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Ms. Jones, are you ready to proceed with your items, ma'am? Please proceed.
First presentation will be Daniel Jones. He will lead the discussion regarding the current state of the city's fiber ring broadband authority and an update on the regional fiber ring. At the end of the presentation, we will discuss the next steps for broadband.
Welcome, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. This evening, as Ms. Jones said, that we will be discussing the current status of the CIP project for the Portsmouth Community Broadband Network, as well as the Portsmouth Broadband Authority and the Southside Networking Authority. So as I mentioned, we'll give a brief update. We'll do a little bit of terminology between what we refer to and is commonplace of lit fiber versus dark fiber, just so everybody gets a common platform regarding the terminology of what we're talking about. And then, as I mentioned, the Portsmouth Broadband Authority, the Southside Network Authority, and any next steps. So where we are with the Portsmouth Broadband Authority, with the Portsmouth Fiber Ring, we know that that fiber ring will produce cost savings if we do nothing else with it, by taking care of our internal connections, our building-to-building connections. It will provide security as we know where the data resides, where the infrastructure resides, and we're not dependent upon a carrier to provide that to us. As well as the speed or the transmission from building to building. So we will be able to take care of that type without, once again, dependent upon a carrier or paying a monthly recurring cost. We also future-proofed this design when we started building it, so it does have excess capacity for any future growth that the city might come upon, or as well as any fiber share or lease agreements that the city may want to entertain at a future point. The construction began in 2018, and we are estimated to complete this month at the end of the year, going into the new calendar year. So just the brief terminology, when we refer to as lit fiber service, the lit fiber service refers to fibers that are currently in use. That is, with information transmitting through the fiber, so that's active. Dark fiber is just the opposite of that. It refers to fibers that are currently not in use. No information passing through the fibers. So just the illustration to break that down is, think of dark fiber as a water utility. So you have the water lines in the ground going from the water transmission plant to the end home. Dark fiber is just the water lines itself. Lit fiber refers to when water goes through those lines. So that's the illustration between that. So when we refer to lit fiber service, just think of it as water going through the water lines to the end user's home. So the Portsmouth Broadband Authority was formed in 2020. The City Council is the board of that. So each one of you sitting here is the board. Now, the City Council can remain the board, or they can appoint a citizen representative. That is at your discretion. Currently, the Portsmouth Broadband Authority is by name only. It has taken no legal actions, agreements, purchases, etc. It has no current financial status. It owns nothing, owes nothing, or has no obligations. The next steps that you as that board will need to do is schedule a meeting in January of this upcoming year, of 2022. That first meeting, you'll need to establish and adopt the bylaws, which has been sent out just for your approval, and elect any board officers. There's the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, secretary, just as you would with any other authority. Now, you can do that and discuss that, but you can't take, of course, any action until you're under that authority meeting. And then you'll need to review any potential dark fiber leases that would come forth as the authority to lease any of that excess capacity. as well as decide going forward with the PRHA Wi-Fi. So a little bit of background with that. The city was awarded a COVID grant, which was the first monies that came down in response to the COVID to close the gap of broadband. With that, the city applied for that, got that grant of $750,000 to set up a Wi-Fi system at the PRHA campuses. And that will be outdoor only, it's not indoor. It is not a replacement for their internet service, but it is a gap to help those that are struggling with connectivity as a means to gain connectivity. So similar to the Portsmouth Broadband Authority is the Southside Network Authority. Under the same Virginia code, it was formed in 2019, but it encompasses the 5 Southside cities. So of course, that's Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, and Portsmouth. That design calls for a 110-mile fiber network. Once again, similar to ours, but it stretches the region, the 5 Southside cities. It interconnects all the municipalities, and it connects, or will connect, the Portsmouth Ring to the transatlantic cables in Virginia Beach. It enhances our public safety and our economic development. And I've got a map on the next slide that gives you what that 50% design of that ring looks like, so you have some kind of visual attached with that. So upcoming, that within the next presentation or the next actions, there will need to be some type of resolution appropriation for this construction. There are working on the agreement. We haven't finalized, haven't even moved forward, but that will be coming for you to look at, review, and adopt if you see so. And as well as that cost sharing of how much Portsmouth would want to buy into this construction. Whatever that amount is, it will be divided. That's what we're reviewing now as a shared model. So each share is worth a certain percentage to go forward that construction. Once again, that's totally up to that discretion. And of course, each share is proportional to the voting rights on the board, the fiber access we have, any revenue that comes, and of course, any liabilities attached with that. And there is the regional map, and as you can see, what's circled in red is basically what would be considered within the Portsmouth geographic boundaries. Even though the ring stretches the 5 Southside cities geographically, that is the piece of the network that is within our jurisdictional geographic boundaries. So our next steps, as I mentioned, we need to schedule a Portsmouth Authority meeting sometime in January the upcoming year. And with council actions, if you would like cities or to have the direction of city staff to begin looking at any potential dark fiber leases so that we could have them ready to present to the board come January, we could do that. And then the Southside Authority contribution, what is that going to be? Once again, that'll be coming forward at the next meeting in January. And then, of course, your authority actions, your board officers, your bylaws. And once again, I mentioned if council desires, approve any dark fiber, pursue the lit service to PRHA, and then move forward with Southside, the cost sharing agreement, and determine any initial investment. And with that, if you have any questions.
Got
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Jones. Just for the public, I think I remember this, but I know that Portsmouth Authority is the council as the board, but for the Southside Network Authority, is that the information officers and the city attorneys for those 5 cities, or who comprises the Southside Network?
It is a different composition for each city.
Okay.
Most cities is either some type of city management, city attorney, or information. For us, myself, I am the primary, and Ms. Jones, the city manager, is the alternate member for that board.
Okay.
Councilman Moody and then Councilmember Battle. Sir, Councilmember Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation, Daniel. My question is on the structure of the board. I know we had said that would be city council, but the structure for the EDA, PPIC, Planning Commission. I think those structures have served council and the citizens very well. And by that, we try to place citizens who have expertise in particular fields on those boards, and we have council liaisons. So I guess my statement is back to council. Hopefully we can revisit that and discuss that structure before we actually kick it off. The other question, Daniel, is directed to you on the regional board. You mentioned we got to decide Portsmouth's contribution to that. Has anyone said, is that going to be weighted towards your population size, your geographic size? Reason why I've mentioned that, when it comes to regional things, a lot of times we've gotten the short end of the stick. So is that, who will be deciding that? And what's the deadline for that?
Okay. Excuse me, the decision will rest with you all as council.
On what we're going to contribute
Yes,
to that?
yes, because there is a resolution and appropriation, if I'm not mistaken, that has to go forward for that. That share contribution will be at council's discretion. And it is a share just so it's not particularly weighted by population, geographic size, or miles, but it is divided on a share. So you can buy as little or as much, up to a certain percentage of 20%, because 5 of the south side cities will have the same option to go forth in the first round.
So what does that percentage get you? Let's say we buy 25%. What does that mean?
Okay, so the first round, each city would only be allowed to buy up to 20%, because there's 5 south side cities.
Okay, well, 20%. So what does that get us?
20% would give a 1/5 voting right, 1/5 revenue share, liabilities, and access to the fibers.
So everybody starts out on equal footing?
Correct.
Okay. Sounds fair enough. Thanks.
Okay.
Councilman Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Do we, or have we thought about getting an attorney to lead us through this process that specializes in this field for guiding us through this whole scenario? By broadband being new, and we don't know a lot about it, I would think that there are attorneys that have a large scope of understanding about it that we can incorporate to lead us through and answer the questions and make sure that we maximize our representation for our constituents, which are the citizens of our city. I don't want to go through this guessing, stumbling, bumbling, when I know Virginia Beach and the rest of the cities are going to be well astute when it comes to this broadband. So we need to take it serious and move in that direction, I would think. And how much are we saving right off the top per year? In essence, I'm saying, how much are we paying now? And then that would be the savings, I would assume.
Okay. You want to take the first part?
Sure, Mr. Battle, appreciate you asking. We do have an attorney in the office who's well-versed in broadband, but we also have hired outside counsel who's advising us.
Well, I think that we would need both.
We do have both.
And especially a good outside attorney. And you've chosen that attorney?
Yes.
Can you share that information with us and his history of what he's done in the field and so forth?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Kelsey Swearinger of our office is
And
our
that-
liaison. Do you want that information now? Can I email it to you?
Yes, sir.
I think in the interest of time, you can provide it to all of us.
Be happy to.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't think this is something we should be rushing with.
That's
If you're
understandable,
interested
sir.
in the time, you're in the wrong place because sometimes we have to spend time.
Michael Lockaby is our attorney on this matter. Ms. Swearinger could give us more information. If you could step up, Kelsey, just let us know what law firm he's from. And
Yes, our attorney on this that has helped us with the Portsmouth fiber ring is Mike Lockaby of Gwynn Wydell Lockaby. I think that's his firm. And he's represented other broadband authorities, like I believe Roanoke Valley Authority, and he's also consulted in some other cases as well.
So is he going to be guiding us through this process?
yes.
And you're going to schedule that for next month?
He
Yeah,
can-
he's, we're in contact with him quite often.
Right, so we have to get the broadband situation together next month.
Yeah.
So you'll be scheduling him next month
I
to
don't know
meet
if
with
he-
us.
We could ask him if you want to meet with him. I guess he could come in.
Well,
That's
thanks.
fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead and continue, Mr. Jones.
And then, Mr. Battle, the second part of your question about any reoccurring expenses. So the regional authority, there is no current expenses because it doesn't exist. Now, the Portsmouth ring itself will save us upwards, if we compare apples to apples about
Yes.
what this ring will provide versus an ISP,
Yes,
of
sir.
up to close to $750,000 a year is what that it will save us.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, Mr. Jones, in regards to the issue that Mr. Battle was raising, on the Southside Network Authority, what's the timeline, again, as far as when we have to take action with that organization?
That would be the first part of January, whatever that first meeting is. I believe it's the 11th, I believe.
So the date has already been established by,
No, I'm saying your council schedule, whatever your first meeting is.
okay, well, I guess it's two issues. The Portsmouth Ring, I know that we have to get some bylaws and things together with that. What I'm speaking of is the South Side aspect as far as meeting with the other localities. Is that a meeting that's taking place, or is that just some things we have to put in place?
Yeah, so the previous meeting that was taking place this past Friday for the Southside Network Authority, and that agreement that I'm speaking of that the board is working on to get it to councils will be going through the proper city attorneys and then following the proper procedure for this upcoming January session.
So-
Some cities have, I'm sorry.
Right, oh, no, I'm sorry, go right on.
No, some cities are already in that position for appropriations, some are not. There's various states.
So if they've already met, who's been representing Portsmouth?
On that board, it's myself as the primary and Mr.
Okay.
Jones as the alternate.
Okay. And so in regards to Mr. Battle's request as far as getting some legal guidance, that's something that council would want to have in January as we start going through this process. I agree with that. Yeah.
Do you have any further questions, sir? Do you have any further questions? Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Next, we have, the city has completed the annual audit ending June 30, 2021. Clifton Allen Larson was contracted as the auditing firm for fiscal year 21 audit engagement. Ms. Aries Coleman will provide a presentation with the results of the engagement.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and good evening. I have a loud voice, so hopefully it's not too loud. Thank you very much for allowing me to present the results of the 2021 AFR. That's a new term now. It used to be CAFRs, now it's AFR, for the city of Portsmouth. First, before I get into the presentation, I want to thank all the finance staff, Mimi Terry, and then you have Patty Phillips, you have Flora, and the whole team, Kiara. This is our first year as the auditors for the city, and we are more than happy to work with you guys. But also just for it to be the first year, the city will be issuing tomorrow, which is the APA deadline for the Commonwealth. Just says a lot for the teamwork that you guys have with the city and the finance department, and we were more than happy to work with them this year. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead with my presentation. All right, so I can go to the next slide. So we'll discuss a couple things, the engagement services that my firm was engaged to provide for the city, the overall results for the financial statements or the AFR, some required communications I'm required to make under auditing standards, and then we're going to look at some future accounting and reporting changes that will affect the city in the next fiscal year. All right, so CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, CLA for short, is how we address ourselves. As part of the engagement services for the city, we were engaged to provide financial audit services for the city, the school board for the city, Economic Development Authority, the Portsmouth Port Industrial Commission, and we also did the student activity funds, which relate to the school board. As part of that engagement service, we also will do a federal programs audit, which used to be called A133, now it's called single audit. Usually that is issued along with the AFR for the city. However, just due to recent changes at OMB, who governs the single audit, you have last year of the CARES funds, this year is the ARP funds. And OMB is doing a lot of changes with the federal compliance supplements. And our firm, on an error on the side of caution, wanted to wait until OMB make their final determination with any reporting requirements, because what we don't want to do is issue the single audit, your federal programs audit, and then have to recall it because now all of a sudden OMB decides they have a major requirement. But we have done most of the work for the single audit, and I think my firm, for the most part, we have kind of a tolerance level. OMB has kind of been pushing us on for the last 4 or 5 months, and when we get into the new year, if nothing's been issued, we're going to go ahead and make the determination that we need to issue based on what OMB has there as guidance. You can go back to the slide before that. Yep. The other service we do is compliance with government auditing standards, and also the auditors of public accounts for the Commonwealth has a couple of engagements they are required to do under laws for the state. And with those, that requires us to do the sheriff internal control over compliance. And we do a census data testing for the VRS plan for the Commonwealth. So the good stuff here, the opinion for the financial statements for the city are unmodified. Unmodified is the highest level of assurance that we are able to give. So what that means, again, our audit is done on a reasonable basis. We do not look at every transaction. We do a risk-based approach. We talk to individuals. We look at trend analysis. And then we do some detailed testing based on the risk assessment. So with that, we have no material weaknesses to report and no significant deficiencies to report to the council today. Next one. So required communications that as part of the financial statements. As part of the audit, there are some numbers that we call estimates. When you look at your actuary reports to compute your self-insurance, IBNR, incurred but not reported, depreciation expense for how long an asset will actually be useful, allowance for doubtful accounts. Those we call estimates because someone is making a idea or a determination on how these things should be presented and the value they are at a certain given time. So what we do when we say these estimates, we inquire actuary reports, we read the actuary reports, depreciation expense, we read the city's stance or their determination for the depreciation and useful life, and then your allowance for doubtful accounts, the collectability of monies that are owed to the city. We look at the historical information the city is using to determine that, that estimate. There were no adjustments, corrected or uncorrected, as a result of our audit that we required the city to make. There were no disagreements with management. We had no difficulties in performing the audit. As I will reiterate, first year for a new audit firm, they're going to make the Commonwealth APA deadline, just, you know, a high accolade for the city as well. The last one, consulting with other auditors, other accountants. So this is our first year, as I've mentioned, and one of the things we want to make sure is that the city, as they were doing the procurement process, was not, we call it opinion shopping, where you talk to different firms and you give them different scenarios that may occur, and what you want to see is, would they give you a clean opinion if this was going on? So that's just questions we asked as standard audit practices, and we were told there were none. We went through the regular RFP process and was awarded the contract. When you receive your governance letter, there will be management representation. We require management to represent all the information they provided us during the audit. And what this is stating is to their best knowledge as of the given date of the audit opinion, which will be dated today. All the information they provided was true, accurate. There's nothing that's changed. Again, we're auditing as of 6/30/2021. I'm standing in front of you December 14th, and we ask that nothing has materially changed to those numbers at 6/30 from December. We are independent in our relationship with the city, and we have no relationship that would impair any of the decisions or opinions that we have issued for the city and other engagements that we were engaged to perform. There are other matters when you get the 240 pages of good information there. We have other matters. So you'll have in the front of the financial statements, you'll have it called MD&A. It's management discussion analysis. And that's really a good short summary of year-to-year comparison for the city on a financial level. You will see at the entity-wide, you have some long-term debt, your capital assets, some of your fund information, and what that does in a short 20, 30 pages, just tell you from this year to last year, this is what happened, and here's a short synopsis, and then you get into the financial statements, and then behind that is the 70, 80 pages of notes which support the financial statements. So we always say for the newbies, the MD&A is a really good place to look. For those of you who have been reading these financial statements for a while, the notes are also great because they support all the numbers that are on the financial schedule. And that is it from my presentation today. So any questions?
Councilmember Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation once again. I do have a question about the management, judgment, and accounting estimates. So what actually are you looking for your actuary computed liabilities?
So we're actually required to get the actual actuary valuation. So for I would say your OPEB plan, we actually will get a 75, 74 actuary report, and we read the actuary report. If we have any concerns with the credentials for the actuary, we then submit it to our own actuary within our firm to review it. So as you look for VRS and any pension plan, they really heavily rely on the actuary report. So we do the same thing.
And just only in VRS, no other retirement systems, anything
Oh,
else?
everyone has to get an actuary report. You would not have, for your pension and your OPEB plan, I really would doubt anyone will record a liability, deferred inflows, outflows, pension expense without actuary report. So no, that's everyone. I do the City of Alexandria actuary report. So no, we require an actuary report. No one can just tell us they think that's what the number is.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, sir. Councilwoman Lucasberg, then Councilman Battle.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, ma'am, for the presentation. Just was wondering if our our credit ratings were taken into any consideration during the audit? I mean, was there any information that your firm looks at regarding our statuses with those?
Now, you're looking, that's for more of the bond ratings.
Right.
That would not affect your financial, it actually goes the other way.
Okay.
Our financials affect your bond ratings. So we are not really concerned about what they rate, they're more concerned about what we're
What you're
saying,
saying.
because if you have a deteriorating financial position, they're not gonna give you the best rates and rate you very high. So really, it goes the other way, they're more concerned about what we're saying.
Okay, yes, sir.
Councilman Battle, sir, you have the floor.
So you're saying that your assessment says that everything looks normal, but then you said, well, there are changes to be made by the governmental agencies, and that a final surmise will not be given at this time?
Okay, so it's two pieces.
Yes, ma'am.
So today I'm presenting on the financial statements.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we also do an audit of the federal programs, which are federal expenditures. So that's the portion, because the federal gods, basically, Office of Management and Budget, have been delaying the requirements that we use to perform the audit. So that's only on your federal expenditure
Yes, ma'am.
report.
Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
And, and so just to make sure the public is clear too, that you issued an unmodified opinion, and if I heard you correctly, you said that is the highest? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and the terminology changed, oh goodness, probably a few years back, where it used to be unqualified, and then it was unqualified, qualified, and then now it's unmodified and qualified. So, but unmodified is the term that we cannot give you any higher. That means that your financial statements are reasonably stated in accordance with government auditing and accounting principles.
Ma'am? Mr. Battle, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Ma'am, could you please state your name again?
Sure, my name is Eris Coleman.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
I just want to say that thank you for smiling during that whole discussion. Rarely do I see accounting folks smile like that. In addition to that, I want to thank our city departments and our financial department and our CFO and our manager in particular. This is good news, and we look forward to working with you. Welcome aboard.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. Sure.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Just the terminology, I guess, all over municipal governments, they changed it from CAFR to AFR.
Yes.
Was there any particular reason? I know comprehensive, you're going to do that anyway, so I guess.
Well, so GFOA, the Government Financial Office Association, I guess it's everyone being very sensitive to certain terminology that we thought was fine. The word CAFR is deemed to be derogatory for some South African countries. So in just being not being supportive and making sure that we're not insulting anyone, they changed it. So instead of the comprehensive annual report, it's annual comprehensive. They just switched the A and the C, just to be more aware of others.
Great, good job.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Battle, sir, you have the floor.
I'd like to say congratulations to Ms. Turry and her group. You're very deserving, and you guys work real hard for us. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam City Manager?
The next items I'd like to present is a summary of the city manager reports to address any questions you may have. The first being item 21377, that's these $100 are funds to use to support children in foster care for Christmas. The next being 21378, $48,000 for the fire department. These are funds used to support state and local efforts to prevent terrorism and other catastrophic events. The next being $28,000 21,379 for behavioral health services. These are allocated funds used to assist with maintaining support and services for individuals diagnosed with intellectual or developmental disabilities. And the next one is also for behavior health, and that's for $95,021,380. This is a one-time allotment from Region 5 to support the purpose of employee recruitment, shift differential, and retention bonuses. The next one, 21,381, this is a Dominion Energy request of a small easement running through 614 Queen Street to address voltage issues. Granting this easement will allow Dominion to resolve the current issues to residences in the 600 block of London Street. And the last one, 21,382, is the adoption of the 2022 calendar of city council meetings. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to address them.
Are there any questions from my colleagues in council? Thank you, ma'am.
That concludes my presentation.
We have now come to the city council liaison reports. And are there any liaison reports at this time? One thing I did want to mention to everyone that I did have my board meeting with HRT last week. And if you drive around, some of us may use regular mass transit through HRT. You'll notice that at many of the bus stop locations, there are new freestanding shelters. And that was an initiative that was started probably a year or so ago to provide those shelters. And I think that's a good thing for our individual citizens who use mass transit. They don't have to stand out in the elements without any cover. So I applaud that effort, and they will continue to finish off those shelters within the city of Portsmouth, and we are grateful for that. Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Mr. Barnes is having his annual Christmas drive where he collects toys for indigent families. And you can contact him if you'd like to contribute a toy. Last year, we gave out to about 200 families in our city toys for kids ranging from bicycles to games and so forth and so on. And we're looking to exceed that this year. So if you would, give Mr. Barnes a call, and he'll give you the drop-off point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, liaison report, as far as school board liaisons, just want to let council know that we will be meeting January the 6th with the school board, city manager, to discuss the ARPA funding. So January 6th at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our items on the work session agenda. However, we do have a need for a closed session. I believe we have a motion.
We do.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, would you read the motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to A Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A1 for the purpose of discussing or considering an appointment to the position of city attorney, and B Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A7 for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the city regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding conflicts of interest.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes is absent. Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We are now going into closed session. We have to come out of closed session. We have to come out of, we need a motion to,
I have it, Mayor. I hereby move that each council member certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We are out of close, and the meeting is adjourned until the start of the regular meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you.